Hey, Chindi.
Hey,
Priya.
I know. Hello, Chimdi. How you doing?
Doing great, doing great. Good to see everyone today. Bit late though.
So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I start the recording already. Do you want to share the screen, Chindi, or should I? Up to you.
Um, I think you should. I have to step away early today, unfortunately. So
Don't
I think
worry.
it might help if you do that. Thank
Don't worry. I'm very bad at doing two things in the same time, but you should be able to see my screen now. Can someone confirm that you see my screens?
Yep.
Thank you, because I cannot see you while I'm sharing. So thank you and welcome to this September Analytic Tableau User Group. So what is the Analytic Tableau User Group? Apart from the best in the world, no, it's a group dedicated to learn everything about analytic in Tableau. We meet once, except in August, where we take a rest for summer break. And it's really the place to be to speak about analytic function across the entire Tableau platform. A Tableau desktop, web edit, or as data. If you would like, you are here just by chance in LinkedIn, or because it's also simulcast in LinkedIn, you can subscribe to our page and be aware of the different events that we have done. I will also put in the chat the different information. If you want to rewatch a recording, we have a YouTube channel. So who are we? We are three colleagues, Shimdi, Prasam, and myself. And we will introduce a little further. I should change the photo, now I have longer hair. My name is Annabelle Rincon. I am leading the Tableau Center of Enablement for Swiss Bank. I'm living in Switzerland. And what else about me? I also co-leading Data Plus Women Zurich event. If you want to join us, we have like a virtual event. And I have the chance to have been named Tableau Visionary and Tableau Ambassador. Thank you very much for your support. Prasam is not here today because he will be there in October for when we change slightly the time zones. And so Prasam is the Tableau Visionary and Social Ambassador. And yes, he currently built a new program called Nebula to learn more about Tableau. If you're interested, you can follow him in social media. And yeah, it was very nice meeting him during the last Tableau conference. And Shimdi is the database manager at Post Media. Is here co-leading the talk with me today. And if you don't know him, you have absolutely to follow him in Tableau Public. I really love his visualization styles and design. The ground rule for today. If you have a question, please use the Q&A. It's much easier for us to track it. If you just want to say hello, where you are coming from, you can absolutely use the chat, make some fun comments. It's up to you. If you want to show some love and support to us, please use the analytic tags in Twitter or in social media. It means a lot for us to have to receive some feedback from you. So enjoy. This session is being recorded. I didn't forget to press the button, so it's fantastic. And it will be afterwards upload in the Tableau YouTube channel. So, and I will also send you an email afterwards, so don't worry about that. Yes, today we have a little spy. Sophie Sparkes is there, and she will be doing some sketching about the audience. So we will see later a little sketch, and I cannot wait to see the result. It seems very engaging. Shindi, do you want to take over for the agenda? Okay, I cannot hear Chimdi, so maybe.
Hi.
Yeah, sorry. Can you present the speakers?
Yes, please. Yes, please. Can you please go to the next slide?
Of course.
Awesome. So for today, we have a bunch of amazing speakers that are really well known in the community. The first off is Andy Cotgreave. Andy is the co-author of the Big Book of Dashboards, which is like a really awesome, resource in the community right now. And so if you haven't heard about that book, I think you're really missing out on like a really great resource. So be sure to check it out. He's a senior data evangelist for Tableau, and he co-hosts Chart Chat with Steve Wexel and a few other people, where it's basically about communicating with data and evaluating, decisions with respect to data visualization. And he also writes the Sweet Spot newsletter. He's got over 15 years of experience in the industry. And as we all know, we've seen a lot of his tweets, presentations, and he continues to inspire the community with everything that he does. And so today he's going to give us a talk on, business dashboard, why it depends was never really a good answer to what's the best chart for this data. And so if you've ever, been challenged with choosing, a best chart type for your use case, et cetera, then I think today you're going to be getting a lot of insights into some of the ways that you can make that happen, smoothly and successfully. So I'm going to pass it off to Andy to give us the goodies. And so Andy, over to you.
All right. Well, thank you, Chimdi. Thanks, everybody. And hey, thanks for joining the Analytics Tableau user group. Some of you may not know that Andy Kriebel and I both ran a user group, the first ever user groups back in April 2009 or 2008. We both decided we wanted to learn more about Tableau about the same time. And so we said, hey, let's just bring people together. And that they were the first Tableau user group. So it's been amazing seeing the growth of this since that time. Yeah, it depends. If you can read on, I actually have "it depends" plastered on the back of my room here because it's an important thing. But today I'm going to rubbish everything I've ever said with "it depends." So let's share the screen. By the way, continue. Please heckle, comment, agree, disagree in the chat, because I've got the chat on screen here so I can see what you're saying, and the more interactivity we get, the better. Lisa says she's not hearing anything, but I'm assuming it's Lisa, not everybody. Can everybody else? I'm seeing Prasan can hear me. Right, okay.
Lisa, if you cannot hear anything, please go to LinkedIn. We have some issue with Bevy.
All right, Chimdi, I'll pick on you. What's the right chart? What chart would you use to show this data?
This data, if you ask me, I would use a line chart to basically just show line A, line B, and you can see the differences across both. What do you think?
All right, perfect. Of course, I can already see a couple of people, and I even foreshadowed the correct answer to this. The correct answer for many years for me has been "it depends." But we're going to dig into your answer as well, Chimdi, and lots of you said line chart as well. But before we get into that, look, I don't need to add much more about me. The one thing that wasn't on the intro from Chimdi that you might know about is, obviously, I'm very lucky I get to host IronViz. We've just launched the feeder competition. So here we go again. We're off again. The theme is wide open this year for the feeder. So whether you've entered it never or 12 times, get involved, because it is a great way to engage in the community and build your Tableau skills. So check it out. Also, here I am at this village in England, possibly the greatest named village in England. It's called Great Chart. And my family were delighted to be dragged there in May this summer, so I could just get this photograph to put on this slide. Maybe I'll retire there when I'm later. But this is all about "it depends." I came across this conclusion many years ago that this is the right answer. I'm going to briefly explain how. How did I reach this conclusion that this was a funny answer to answer? Well, I started life as a data analyst at the University of Oxford back in 2007. And I just thought at that point that making a chart was pressing the ribbon button in Excel and enjoying the 3D wonders that came about. I didn't realize there was any purpose to visualization at that point. Quite soon into that job, though, I downloaded what was called the Chart Chooser from extremepresentation.com. If anybody's also seen this, type "I've seen this" in the chat. And what this was just an A4 piece of paper. And in the center, it said, "What would you like to show?" I'm like, what? I've never realized that was even a question I could ask when making visualizations. And opening out, I had these 4 options. What kind of thing would I like to show? Zoom out, and here was this eye-opening myriad set of choices, right? My mind was blown because it turned out charts were not just a button click in Excel. It turned out I, as the creator, had agency. So I needed to consider my intent as part of the chart creation. Love this chart chooser. Stephen Few wrote about 3,000 words rubbishing it, but I think he was very wrong. But let's talk about Stephen Few, because from that chart chooser, I then got into Stephen Few. Now you see it, showing me the numbers. These are really important books in the field, providing a really solid ground in precision and efficiency in visualization. He argued, or Stephen Few argues, that data visualization is about sense making and pure and efficiently as possible. And I became a completely committed disciple to this approach in about 2010. Data viz should be pure and precise. However, at the same time, many people such as David McCandless were pioneering something completely different. His early books, Information is Beautiful, Knowledge is Beautiful, took an entirely different approach. Information could be beautiful, whimsical, engaging, and inaccurately encoded. So you couldn't even really get accuracy out of it, but you could get the gist. And this flew in the face of my belief system that I developed, right? Stephen Few was saying purity, purity. And David McCandless was selling thousands of books and getting TED Talks and going on TV. What was going on? And eventually I had an epiphany. By the way, this is mid-journey, taking a picture of me and then redrawing it of me having an epiphany. So it at least improved my teeth, but I'm not sure it really looks like me. Anyway, so I had this epiphany. It's like Stephen Few can't be right. David McCandless can't be right. And finally, I was ready to come to the world with this article that I wrote nearly 10 years ago. How do you tell an expert from an amateur? And what I said in HuffPost was the ultimate answer to any question on choice is it depends. Ha 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 ha. So I'd come up with this little 2-word meme that was easy to throw around and use on the internet, and it became something of a sort of a data fan meme. And if there was ever a Twitter conversation about chart choice, we'd be like, it depends. But data fan, but attendees, audience, there was dissent. There was some dissent. People like Nick Debarat tweeted this in 2021. He said, yeah, it covers all the bases. That's a problem. It's meaningless. We can do better. Ouch. Now, he wasn't the only one. Jeff Schaefer, my co-author, also said the thing. It's like, it's not helpful, Andy, just to say it depends. It might be comically, wryly funny, but it isn't helpful. So I needed a better answer. If it depends, what do I think it depends on? So here we go. That's the preamble. Now, I'm going to cover these. I'm going to cover possibly 5 of these 6 things. We might not get to do the example because it depends how long the rest of it takes. So this is what I think it depends on. First of all, coffee. Anytime you're building a visualization, you're not building it for yourself. Well, sometimes you are building it for yourself. But if it's something that is going to be published or shared, you've got to consider the audience. Will they understand the chart you're building? Don't send a complex Sankey diagram to your grandparents unless they know a lot about data visualization. But generally, bar charts and pie charts are good for grandparents. Will they be willing to take the time to understand the chart? And then, what's the message? Once you know your audience, you can consider the message you want them to take away. Your power as an analyst is not only about the nitty-gritty analytical power of Tableau. You are a curator, an editor, and a storyteller, an artist working alongside the science of data. I'm enjoying some of these comments, and I'm going to try and I am enjoying your comments. Keep them coming. Steve, Jeff, and I, when we wrote the big book of dashboards, we figured that when you're building visualizations, our mantra is for the largest number of people, provide them with the greatest degree of understanding while requiring them to spend the least amount of effort to get that understanding. In business, I'm pretty much sure I'd hold on to that mantra, But as we'll see in a minute, there are quite a lot of circumstances in which I'd even say sometimes it could be the right thing to require people to make effort to get an answer from the data. Perhaps controversial, but we'll get there. Okay, what is the right chart? Well, let's go back to the question I asked Chimdi. Chimdi, brilliant, and Tom Hance said line chart, and that is, given 2 seconds to answer a question, is kind of the right answer. As many of you know, though, the nuance gets even more complicated. Here are 1, 2, 3, 7 potential questions you could ask of that simple 24 value data set. And each one of them requires a different chart. Are you just showing the combined? Are you breaking it down by A and B? Are you doing running totals? Do you want an area chart? Do you want to show the differences or the residuals? I can even show from the same data 2 entirely different conclusions with entirely different aggregations. If I take the mean of the average, then I'll say, hey, B is the best of these 2 categories. Let's go ahead with B. But if I take the median average, then I can say A is the best. Right? They're both completely legitimate charts. They're not deceptive. It's just about your choice and your power as a curator. So, as I'm sure you knew, Chimdi, the answer was kind of complicated. I've been doing these slides in some shape or form for several years. And I've always asked this question, can't AI do this for us now? 5 years ago, it was like, well, no. But then the world changed a little bit, didn't it, with ChatGPT and OpenAI and things like that in sort of October, November last year. So I'm going to answer that question a little bit in a few minutes. But the right chart, the aspect of the right chart is one of the things it depends on. Which chart is correct for the story you are trying to tell? Okay, so we have kind of got chart choice. But then you've got a whole world of other things. The world of design, framing, and, well, what I'm going to call the levers. So we have this power, right? So what I've been doing over many years is thinking, well, what does it depend on? And I've got this model levers. But I'm just going to see if you can start picking your own brain to see what some of these answers might be, first of all. So consider charts about COVID. If I was going to design a chart that Boris Johnson and the health advisors would present in a press conference, just in chat, just type some adjectives to describe what would be a successful chart in a COVID press conference. Right, so James says simple as possible, clear, bands, big ass numbers from Bill. Arnold, yes, Arnold, do you remember that? Line charts, true. Blood red, says Martin. I'm not, right, I'll come back to blood red. Map, low enough, visible on small screen. Right. Steve asks a good question. Is it successful for Boris or for the public? Simple or easy? Well, okay, great answers, right? We're going to come into some of the adjectives I will use, but basically, when they were trying to convey information about a new disease to a frightened audience who were locked down, and based on uncertain stuff as well, all of these charts had to be really, really devoid of any emotion. They had to be clear, concise, and crisp. Largely in the UK, I think they did a pretty good job, and I've since spoken to some of the people in the Cabinet Office doing these slides, and they had a cool attempt to try and do things. Now, what adjectives, if we were trying to stop the scroll on social media and we had a COVID chart, what would we do here differently? Right, so Wilf says scary, emotional, attention-seeking, flashy, right? Bold, excellent. So this is what Bloomberg Graphics did in June. This was June this year, June last year, actually. This is an orange bubble chart. Not very useful for business environments, but actually it stops you scrolling. So how can we take these adjectives and form them into a model that we can use? Well, I call it the levers. Lisa says not impressive to the Bloomberg chart. Well, Lisa, just you wait till I get to V, and then we'll see how you react to the chart I'm going to show there. Okay, so L. Let's talk about the way I think about how I'm going to make a chart for different purposes. So L is for level of detail. Your visuals can be granular or they can be sparse. For my example here, I'm going to choose this award-winning chart from Wall Street Journal, and it shows the impact of vaccinations on disease of polio. If you go to the article, they did about 5 different diseases. Already, in just listening to me talk, you've passed this chart quite quickly. Lots of information, lots of dense color, a black line where the vaccine for polio was introduced, and then a virtual disappearance of the disease across the US. We've got time on the x-axis, and each row represents one of the states in the USA. So when this came out, loads of people were, this is amazing, this is really cool. It was really well received in the database field. It did go on to few awards. And we can argue about the color palette, which is possibly not the best. We probably shouldn't be doing rainbow color palettes, but everything else about this chart is amazing, and there's a huge level of detail. Some weeks later, people started saying, oh, should have been a line chart. Randy Olson, who works at Our World in Data in Oxford, was one of those people, and he said, how about we just draw it as a line chart? That way the insight comes to us a lot faster. In fact, there's new insight. You can see that polio was going up before it plummeted. But the point that Tynan de Bold was trying to make was somewhat different. And I spoke to him recently about his design choices to this. They wanted to convey the point that there was a point at which the disease was eradicated. That's the black line. They wanted something that was more visually appealing than a line chart, because they knew this would go on social media. But they also wanted to provide something which added extra functionality. If you saw the impact, and then you could look at the chart and go and see what happened in any year in any US state. And here, everything's aggregated away. So the insight arrives quicker, but there's no chance for secondary exploration. Imagine whatever job you're doing, whatever you do data viz for, you can show something quickly or you can show details. So level of detail point, I coined Cotgreave's law based on this reaction that I'm saying it should be a line chart. So this was, the longer an innovative visualization exists, the probability that someone says it should have been a line or a bar chart approaches 1. Just ponder that for a moment. I can see some people are talking about red-green color blindness on the color palette. Yes, I think we can ding them for that color palette choice, but for the design, I think it was still a pretty cool design. Level of detail. E is for emotion. James, you may post that law in social media. Let's see if we can make it stick. It's appeared in a few places. All right, emotional. You can be dry. Here is a bar chart showing the air quality in Sheffield in November 2014. It is the dullest bar chart I could possibly build. If you are an environmental consultant, this is a pretty cool chart. It shows you that on the 5th of November 2014, air quality was really bad in the evening. If you're in England, that's our bonfire night when we traditionally set off the most fireworks. It's dry, it's pure, it's very Stephen Few. But you can be emotional. Here is the same data, literally the same data, rendered as a big, fat, heavy, colorful necklace. Each segment represents one of the time periods, and the shape and color are encoding air quality. I did this talk recently for apprentices at Multiverse, and they hated this necklace. It was hilarious. So I'm glad I'm seeing some love on here. Wilf, yes, I think I will agree. My chart is misleading. I will change that for the future. Why would you make this necklace and not the boring bar chart? Anybody? Choking for dinner parties. Sparks conversation, grabs attention. Right. Titillation. There are awesome answers. So when Miriam Quick and Stephanie made these necklaces, they were for an exhibition about just for the public in a gallery in the centre of Sheffield. So their audience was people who couldn't give two hoots about pre-attentive attributes, colour palettes, or any of the things we like to nerd out on. Would they have thought about air pollution by looking at this, or would they have got a more visceral response to air pollution when thinking about this? So the reason I think this is really successful and you can bring emotion into visualization is to capture non-data people and to capture people's emotions, which is an equally valid target as to, capture their heart rather than their head. So Ibrahim, your neck hurts just looking at it. I mean, I think that was kind of their intention a little bit. So there you go. Excellent. All right. So emotion. Which one of these is appropriate in your business and work and play and home environments? I don't know, but we can carry on thinking about that. V is for vagueness. It's not the best English word in the language, but it does at least begin with V. Charts. Should they be precise or should they be ambiguous? And I can't remember, was it Stephanie who didn't like the chart earlier? You're about to see something horrific. Back in January 22, COVID in the US was exploding again. It seems like a lifetime ago, and it seems like almost no time ago. So in an article on the New York Times talking about this, they did this line chart, and this was the projected case numbers for COVID in January, going up, really high, compared to sort of progressive case numbers in every single month of the pandemic. This thick line was the same month in the previous year. So they're telling this accurate story of projected serious COVID. And they're using angle and lines and crisp, beautiful charts to convey an insight very accurately. You're laughing at me, accurate, are you? Well, not sure why you're lolling, accurate, John. I guess because there's a huge amount of uncertainty. So while the data might not be accurate, the way it is encoded and visualized is accurate, I would propose. Or you can be ambiguous. Here is the same data, literally the same data, rendered as what? A tapeworm. It starts here in 2000. There's 12 spokes, one for each month, and we sort of spiral outwards. COVID went down, and then it went up, and then it went down. And in January, oh my gosh, it was going to get really big again. Right. So Antoinette says annoying. Priya says, oh dear. Very Tim Burton. Gross, says Autumn. Yeah, right. Why would you do this? Florence Nightingale is spinning in her grave. I suspect she is. So why would you do this one then? Okay. So I'm going to propose to you all, this is genius. If you were on Twitter, this is the chart you saw on the New York Times tweets. What is the point of a tweet? It is to stop the scroll and make you go, huh? What am I looking at? What on earth is this? So they are getting data people, or people who are at least sympathetic to data, to go, what the heck am I looking at? Then click on, when you click on the link, this is the chart that's at the top of the article you clicked on. So Anne says it looks like something from a biology textbook. It does, right? But its intent was to grab attention. And I think that's completely reasonable, right? If you see lots of leading media organizations do vague charts on social media and then accurate charts when you get to the articles. This, I think, is something you can apply with care in your workplace. But you've got to be careful and you've got to do it very cleverly so as not for people to think you have no clue what you're talking about. You know, the New York Times people are great data visualizers, and they knew this was an inaccurate way of visualizing data, but they had a very good justification for doing it. Bait and switch, clickworm, beta, clickworm. Suka, that's brilliant. A clickworm. I love it. Okay, so V is for vagueness. E, explore or explain. Here is the absolute master, Hans Rosling, who this is a photograph from him presenting at Tableau conference in 2013. If you have not seen Hans Rosling's 2006 TED Talk or BBC show or any of his other things, go and find some video of him presenting, because he was a genius when it came towards putting data on a screen and bringing it to life. This stick is amazing. What a great way to point to things. But he realized that the visuals that you would put on a big screen were completely different to the visuals that you would put in a dashboard or in an email. And he made the time and the effort to build visuals that were appropriate for those things. If you are going to do exploratory visualizations, then you can afford to be much more dense with your information. So here's a dashboard from the Big Book of Dashboards. It shows consultancy utilization. It's got 96 pieces of information on it. I would hope nobody would ever do a presentation with something like this, because it's too overwhelming and it doesn't convey the emotion or narrative that somebody is trying to convey. So when you're finalizing output or finalizing your charts, you've got to choose a path. Are you going for presentation and explanation, or are you going for self-exploration, in which case you can be more dense? This is not a flamethrower, says James. That's correct. Rapidity. Another slightly clunky word, but at least it begins with R. Do your charts need to be presented slowly or quickly? And for this, we're going back to the t-shirt of me, to back chart. Can anybody tell me what chart is on my t-shirt? Anybody recognize that? It is a genuine word, rapidity. I have actually checked it exists. World War II, War March. It is Napoleon, says Victor. Napoleon's march to Russia. Here you go. Right. So for those of you who have not seen it, some of you may have not. I suspect most of you have, because you're in a Tableau user group and it's kind of one of those gateways. If you've not seen this before, this is this is a really great chart for the perspective of showing loads of ways of encoding data. I'm going to go quite quickly. But in 1812, Napoleon amassed 500,000 soldiers near the Russian border. He wanted to march to Moscow like this to go and defeat the Russians. The Russians were scorching the earth behind them, so they were starving the soldiers and all the civilians. By the time they got to Moscow, they'd already lost a massive chunk of the army. Moscow itself had been evacuated, and a lot of it was on fire, so there was no one for Napoleon to fight. So he had to retreat. The color changes. We are now in the black line for retreating. What's going on now? The line is getting very thin. Not only is the earth scorched, it's also extraordinarily cold, temperature being shown on the bottom line. Tragedies at the Berezhny River, where over half the remaining soldiers perished. And he finally limps back to a starting point with about 10,000 soldiers left, having started with 500,000. So this is an amazing visualization. It uses color, angle, annotations, shape, slope, all sorts of things. But it does take a while to present. And this R is fidelity. So if you were to imagine you were Field Marshal Michael Kutuzov having a chat with Emperor Alexander. So Kutuzov was the Russian emperor at the time, and he and Alexander was the Russian emperor. So imagine a text conversation with these two. Yeah, you're gonna have to go with me on this imagination, all right? And imagine Alexander says, "Great job, you smashed Napoleon. Scorched earth was a great decision." I mean, ignoring all the people of their own country who died. "Thanks, buddy. So we have some vodkas later." "Yeah, but can you do a PowerPoint presentation to the team as a quick summary before we go?" "Oh, yeah. How long am I going to have to do that, Alexander? That's really quite awkward." And Alexander says, 2 minutes. It's a busy agenda. This is an Android phone, by the way. And if anybody wants to Google the phone number, in the next. In fact, the phone number is about to disappear. But if anybody wants to Google the phone number, then you'll have a bit of a giggle. All right, but we've all been there, right? Oh, can you present your findings at the end of the meeting, and all the people who think they're really important talk for longer than they should do, and that 2 minutes becomes 20 seconds. So it took me a minute and a half to go through this very quickly. That's still too long for this purpose. This is what he could have done. Hi, everybody. Cut us off here. Thanks for having me here. I just want to do a really brief summary of the campaign outcome. We did a scorched earth policy, and we killed or captured 98% of Napoleon's soldiers. That's all I have time for now. If you want more details, come to visit me in my office, and I'll give you more details. Thanks very much. Let's go have a vodka. You, as a creator, need to understand how long your audience are going to devote to your chart. If they are going to devote a long time, or they're presenting and you have to present a complicated chart, you have to spend the time explaining what that chart shows. If you only have a few seconds, that chart needs to be understandable almost instantly. So there you go, rapidity. And finally, Val has found the phone number. It is the Kremlin indeed. So the phone number on that thing was the phone number for the Kremlin. All right, sneakiness. S is for sneaky. You can be honest or dishonest. Clearly, you are all people of integrity and good intent, so you would never be dishonest. But let's just get rid of the labels on this chart. Here is a tweet from February this year from the UK Treasury, surely a bastion of honesty and integrity, because they run my country. What's the problem here? Anybody? Many of you can probably see it. They were trying to oversell the. I've taken the label. Sorry, I've taken the labels off. It's scale, right? The axis is not starting at 0. There you go. So some of you got that. This tweet, to somebody glancing it, would think, "Wow, inflation has gone down about 25%. Hey, go government! You guys are amazing." If, however, so that's because the y-axis starts at 7%. If we extend this down to 0, Greg said no one, well, maybe some people say it, Greg, but you wouldn't hear it from me. This is what the chart looks like when you extend this axis down to 0. How much has inflation reduced? Oh, it's just a piddly little bit. Prices are still going up a huge amount. Compare that to what it looked like in the first chart, and it's a deceptive visualization. The reason I share this one is because the UK Office for Statistics Regulation wrote to the Treasury and said, red card, you know better than this. This is deceptive statistical visualization. Is there a way in which they could have truncated the y-axis and maintained honesty? I say yes, they could have used a line chart, because when we encode data as a line chart, we are we're encoding the slope rather than the distance, the height from the y-axis. So they could have done that and got away with it, but they chose not to. Graham Keller says statistics don't lie. They don't lie, but in the power of anybody, we can tell different stories with the same statistics, even when we're being legit and honest. So these are my levers. I think there are more levers. If you think there are other things you can push or pull either way, put them in the chat. And it is okay to push or pull these in any different direction, to the extreme or in the middle, except sneakiness. Good joke, John, but we should probably lean a little away from the overt political commentary. Perhaps I already haven't. Perhaps I've been setting us up wrong. But these are my levers. This is how I apply my data. Right. I've been going 33 minutes, so I'm going to go a little bit quicker to just answer a couple more questions. First of all, can AI not do this for us now? ChatGPT, it's amazing. This picture, by the way, is what Midjourney thinks It Depends looks like. Ugh. Anyway, what do we all think? Will it make it easier for us to build charts? I don't know. At this point, I wish we were all having a live beer or wine or coffee-based conversation. I started off with this. I talked about charts, and again, I said how I've been asking, can't AI do all this for us now? Well, in my explorations, first of all, if you use ChatGPT 3 or 4, it can't, because it's a large learning model, and it's quite comic when it tries to do numeric operations. So those were videos I did back in February. You might have seen there's a new plugin that was called Code Interpreter. It's now called Advanced Data Analysis. And in it, you can just upload a data set and do advanced data analysis. I've actually just started doing a series where I'm live streaming me trying to do real data analysis with data sets I don't know to see what happens. So I just did one earlier today. It was unannounced because I was just trying it out. But I uploaded UFO data, and here's what, there are more weekend sightings of UFOs than weekdays. Not surprising, really. Can GPT do exploratory data analysis and push and pull the levers? The result is okay. It's like if you've employed an intern who turned out to be not very attentive. Unfortunately, most of the interns I've ever worked with have been absolutely amazing. But when you get somebody who's not very experienced and just a bit just not that good, they kind of get things right. It's very slow. It's very cumbersome. It's nowhere near good enough the power we have when we use Tableau. But if you've never used Tableau, I did get insights, and I did even get a PowerPoint file and a script for a presentation out of ChatGPT in just 1 hour, which I think if you were a 13 or 14-year-old would be pretty good quality. But that's about where I think we're at. I'm not going to do a makeover because I think we have run out of time. But just in summary, this is my vision of data analytics. It comes from Newman's cycle of visual design. The power we have as humans, when we're pushing and pulling levers, we're playing with data. We're just toying around with it. It's like putty in our hands as we throw things around in Tableau, and we find the best articulation of the data and apply levers that we know will hit the audience with the right impact. My slides are out of order. Without something like Tableau, you're left with very few options. You just kind of do this and then you're done. But the power of applying levers is having that flexibility to do things like this. Publish dashboards. And then once you've got your dashboard, somebody asks a new question and you can repeat the process and keep going and applying the levers. So there you go. 36 minutes. My voice is about to die. Nearly 10 years ago, I facetiously said it didn't as an answer. But what I've hopefully tried to do is give you a little bit more context of when I say it depends on the levers. So with that, I don't know if we've got a couple of time for some questions or if we want to move on, but I'll pass back to our hosts and carry on. Are all the charts you've seen made in Tableau? No, they are a potpourri of all sorts of things. I'll tell you one which wasn't made in Tableau. That one certainly wasn't. That one I did build that chart for this example. That's Tableau. These are not Tableau. I mean, they could all be done in Tableau. I mean, this one has been done in Tableau. This one was done in 1869, but could be done in Tableau. This is the tweet, but I rebuilt it in Tableau, so that's Tableau. So yeah, there's a bunch of them that are. But not all. Oh no, that's a great question. So when I first started using Tableau in 2007, I got well known by the leaders, and in 2009 they said, "What are the top 5 things we should do to improve Tableau?" It's 2023. They've done 3 of them. They've half done one, but the first one that I wrote down was in fact, I'm just going to, was tweak filters, right? You get, oh, hang on, I'm just going to share my screen again. When you customize a filter, you have, so I'm just going on a rant here. Right? When you customize a filter, so let's show a filter for genre, right? If you customize a filter, you have to hit this tiny button, then you have to hit this tiny button, then you click this tiny thing, and the whole thing disappears. So if you want to then do the thing, you have to do it over and over again. And I was like, can you not just make one dialog box where we can change all the settings, and then we'll be done? Anyway, yes, look, I can see it. They haven't done that one, so I'm still waiting for that one. I think maybe when they do that, that's when I'll retire. By the way, this is a sneak peek of something I'm not allowed to tell you about. And I'm going to stop there. All will become clear on the 1st of November. So don't tell anybody. Okay? No, it's not recording. Don't tell anybody. Do I really want to retire, says Katie? No, probably not. I don't. I think this is in my blood. Yeah. Sorry, there was one more. Actually, there was one more question I did want to address. Do I still use the chart chooser? So, can I address that one? Let me just go. I'm going to share my screen again and go to the chart chooser. So over time, I fell out with Stephen Few because his opinions were too dogmatic. And he wrote a very long blog post saying about 2,500 words saying why this was an absolute disservice to people learning the field. It wasn't. I'm a living example that this was on my cubicle wall for about 2 years. I was like, oh my God, I can do things. As I became more experienced, I realized that some of these networks, some of these branches were maybe not completely right. Or I would maybe choose different things going down a branch than they did here. But that's like saying the first books you give to your children are useless. They should be reading War and Peace. It's like, no, this was absolutely brilliant for me with my naive new data analyst eyes. And only over time and experience did I realize, well, I can now walk on my own and do my own things. So I don't use it now, but I'm really very I'm very conscious of how big an effect it had on me. So I still think it's a valid thing for people to have. All right. I will paste again. If you want to follow me, you can subscribe to my newsletter. I will paste the link in chat. All right. Thank you very much. Brilliant. All right. Well, thanks, everybody. I'm going to stick around for another half hour.
Annabelle, do you mind sharing again, please, if that's okay? Not a problem. Take your time. Take your time. Yeah. Awesome. Great presentation from Andy. And up next today, we have Tristan Guillevin, who, again, another really well-known member of the community who has been doing great things for years. And so currently, he works as a data visualization freelancer. I'll actually help him update that to say that now he's actually moving towards the business side of things with his studio. I'm sure he can talk about that later. He won the Iron Viz competition in 2017. Massive feat that he completed there. He also won the Tableau Hackathon in 2019. Again, fantastic. And of course, no surprise, he's a Tableau ambassador and a visionary as well. And so when he's not working with clients, he builds tools for the community. I'm sure we've all seen like the Voronoi makers and all that great stuff. And he recently came out with another tool, the Bang, which helps us build KPIs, bands very, very quickly. So these are some tools where I think if you go to his website, letdataviz.com, you can interact with everything that he's done. But he's just a really great guy with technical skills, and he's using those skills to, level up the community. Today is going to be talking to us about building bridges, which is basically, I guess, going to be helping us understand what is the path to success with Tableau. And so I'm going to stop it over there, pass it off to Tristan. And so over to you, sir.
Thank you. I hope everyone can hear me and soon see my screen. Should be good, I guess. Yes. Perfect. Yes. What I will present, I cannot read. I don't know how you did, Andy. When I play my slides, it hides the comment of people. So I will not be able to read your comment while I present, but I will answer all the questions that you have later. First, I want to, so right now I don't see you. So I want to say first, thank you for the invitation. Thank you for the kind word. It's really special for me to be with you here today. It's the first time I'm presenting at the Analytics TUG. And yeah, I'm going to explain how building bridge is one of the paths to success with Tableau, and I will come back to that path to success at the end, really what it means for me. So yeah, my name is Tristan Guillevin, as you said it. A few years ago, I built La Dataviz, so a really, really small company of two. I'm a Tableau Visionary ambassador and risk champion, as you said it, so we can pass that quickly. The main topic of my presentation will be how you should, and I kept a beginner mindset, and that's really my driving force during all my years of working with Tableau and other tools. How I build product with Tableau. So how you can also build product with Tableau. I hope that what I will show today will maybe spark some interest for you, and you will be like, maybe I can do also something. So I will make some demo, and at the very end, I will demo you another new tool that I've almost shown to no one, just the people at the London TUG last week saw it. So it's really brand new, and I hope you will be excited about that. And I also want to talk about how you can use your unfair advantages. So about that, an unfair advantage is something that makes you different from other people, right? It's something that you are either passionate about. So maybe you like movies a lot and you know a lot about how movies are made and who are the director and all that stuff. So you can use that passion and fuel it to your work. It can be something that you have trained. So maybe you spend an hour every day to learn chess opening, right? And then you will probably be better than the average population at playing chess. And it can also be a gift, and maybe you are born being able to hear notes in song and be really easily being able to detect the different chords in song and be able to play them, because that's just how you hear things. So whether it's passion, training, or a gift that you have, it is something that will make you different. Not necessarily better. No one is better because of that. It's just different. It makes you you, and you can use those things that are different and are not easy to copy to make things and to fuel that to your work, right? So I just want to share a bit how I started my own journey around that. So for me, since I am a kid and still up to today, I like to solve problems. As a kid, I love playing The Legend of Zelda, and the water temple that everyone hated because it was so difficult. For me, it was my favorite because I just liked the solving problem aspect of it. I also knew very early that I like to work on a computer. I think in my 100 people farmer village, I was the first one to get a computer in his room, when I was 8, also around that time, thanks to my uncle. And yeah, I just spent a lot of time on it, installed all the possible virus, deleted the system32 because it just had a funny name. So I just spent a lot of time on my computer, and I liked it. And I knew I was going to work with computer when I was going to be adult. And the last part, and that is more recent, I noticed that I was kind of good at making things look good. And that is mostly during my years as a student, when I had to work on a project. I could have the same result as the other student. Like I could work on a project and have a similar project, but I could get slightly better grades just because the end result or the presentation or the report that we needed to do, I could make it look good, right? And so solving an issue, working a computer and making it look good for me was, I discovered that I could solve problem with data, or I could try to help people solve their problem with data. I could use software on my computer, and I could also make things look good thanks to design. And data visualization for me is really that combination of data, software, and design is what drove me to that field. So in 2015, I arrived on the Tableau Island and I started to work as a consultant. And one of my first clients was the Council of Europe, and with them we built a lot of tables, we built some bar charts, we built some maps. And then I went to another client and I built some bar charts, some line charts, some bar charts, some maps. And eventually I went to another client and etc. Right? And like, again, there is really nothing wrong with those charts. And I agree with Andy. Eventually every chart will be like, you will have a comment that will say that should have been a bar chart or a line chart. And I agree, because it's really one of the most efficient way to represent data. And there is nothing wrong with that. It's just that if that was already my work, if I was already doing that part of my job every day, then outside of it, I wanted to experiment. I wanted to see what can I do that is not what I do at work. So I started to make visualization on Tableau Public about beer consumption in Europe, about the rainforest, the biodiversity, and the endangered species, and also the usage of smartphone during the World Cup in Russia. And thanks to the Viz in the middle, I managed to secure a place to the R&Vs in 2017, so a long time ago now. And I won with this visualization showing the market roller coaster. So I was really inspired by Hans Rosling, also how to tell a story in front of an audience. So I built this story, really showing live the evolution and the crisis happening in the US with like a state by state, the evolution of the price state by state in the US during that crisis. And the 3 previous visualization got Viz of the Day, and this one allowed me to win the R&V's championship, and they were all just bar chart, line chart, and maps. Instead of line chart, it was maybe area chart, and instead of a bar chart, maybe it was a lollipop, but everything was really those kind of marks type, default marks type that you can have in Tableau. There was nothing that require like a sign network or those crazy visualization that you saw before. It was just pure, simple visualization with colors and shapes and different layout, but really pure, simple bar chart, line chart. And when I started to think about the reason why I could not produce something that was outside of what Tableau allowed me to do, it was because I was just using Tableau at every point of my process, from the data exploration, which Tableau is really good at, to the publishing on Tableau Public. But in the middle, I was also using Tableau to create sheet 1, sheet 2, sheet 3, sheet 145, right? You know, this kind of thing that you just make sheets and sheets and sheets. And at the end, you just select the one that you like, and you just work continuously within the constraint of Tableau. So in 2019, I decided to build my first bridge. And at that time, I worked with another company that gave me a lot of time and allowed me to learn web development and D3, which is a famous library to make charts on the web. And directly, my very first visualization that I did using those tools was a network diagram showing the interaction of people during the Tableau conference. So every circle here is like a Twitter account. The size of the circle is the number of tweets during the Tableau conference in 2019. And if there is a line between 2 Twitter accounts, it means that they are tagged on the same picture, or one interacted with another, like tagging that person. So it was a visualization about the Tableau conference. And because I didn't do it in Tableau, I could make a network, right? I was free to do something different. So different that you could also just grab a circle and move it around, which has absolutely no purpose, but again, is something I could do for the first time. So I did it. But this visualization, this network is about the Tableau community, right? It's about the people who went to the Tableau conference and tweeted Data 19. So I really wanted to find a way to recreate that network in Tableau. And a network is really just circles and lines. And Tableau knows how to do circles and lines. That's not a problem. So the only thing that I needed to find was the position of those circles and those lines. So the way you would do it, the way I did it in this visualization was using D3 that has a package, and you don't need to understand that. That is called force simulation, that you just give a list of nodes, a list of link, you apply certain forces, and D3 will calculate those positions, those X and Y coordinates. Then you just use SVGs, and you can plot the different lines and the different circles, and that creates a network, right? As you can see, the X and Y position for the circle and the line are computed. It's not something that you do by hand. So my idea was, well, if D3 is already calculating the coordinates of the circles and the lines, why don't I export those coordinates in CSV that Tableau can read? And I create like nodes.csv with the coordinates of all the circles and links.csv with the coordinates of all the lines. And if you put those two CSV in Tableau with a dual axis and really simple marks type like circle and lines, you can have a network in Tableau. So it's really about using D3 to calculate the coordinates and using Tableau to plot those coordinates instead of using SVG or something else. And since it was Tableau, you could easily create like a parameter to input your Twitter name, and then with action, change the color and those things. So really the development of the UI was much simpler in Tableau than on the web. Then I repeated the same process using D3 to calculate coordinates and Tableau to plot the visualization by doing Voronoi tree map. And then I learned Figma to be a bit better at UI and have some gradients and some shadings, those kind of stuff. And then I also learned to Procreate quickly just to draw a bit to have some hand-drawn effect on my visualization. So every time I was kind of learning a new skill, learning a new tool that would allow me to build something different and new. And then my first bridge was on observable. And I created tools, really early stage tool, really alpha, when you could put your data, configure visually the result of the visualization that you wanted to see, and then export the data. So export that generated data that D3 was giving you, right? Export just the CSV. And then you still had to build the visualization yourself in Tableau. I was just giving you the data. So it was a really flimsy bridge because even though it was working and people used it, I needed to do a lot of support. Like I needed to really answer a lot of questions of people saying, hey, I have the data, now what do I do with it? How do I use that in Tableau? So for the years that followed, I really started to learn to build those bridges between different tools and make them better and make them sturdy and make them available to everyone. So at that time, my database process was no longer looking like that. I had different tools that I was using at different moments of my process. And the good thing is like learning to build tools was not starting from zero because I could use already what I knew about UI development, my development skill of D3 and what I knew about Tableau to combine some new tool, Webflow, to learn how to do CSS because I'm really bad at CSS, and Svelte for the interactivity of my application. So I was combining all of those tools to create Adviz. That is a tool that will allow you to create advanced visualization quickly. Last week, in collaboration with Jessica, we created this Sherlock Holmes visualization. And I just want to show you, and it will take a few minutes, how to create this using the tool. So that's our data. So you can see the list of all the Sherlock Holmes entry. And you can see if it's a book, a short story, a movie, a TV show, or a game, and the year of publishing, right? So it's ranked by year, and you have like 400 Sherlock Holmes, either canon or adaptation. So now we can go on Adviz, so Advanced Visualization Generator. And I think a good visualization for this was a B-swarm. So let's click on B-swarm, select a file, and let's use our Sherlock Holmes data. Usually what I do when I make those demo in person is like I turn off my Wi-Fi because once the tool is loaded, you don't upload anything. My tool is just pure front end, so there is no backend, there is no upload of anything. You can just go offline, just letting you know. And let's just put 1,500 pixels, and like the size here doesn't represent anything, so I'm just going to use constant of 10 pixel. That looks good. The x-axis is the year, so we add the year in the data, so it's already using year as the x-axis, so that is the oldest entry and that is the most recent. And as the y-axis, you could use the type to have maybe one line per type of entry, but I think we are going to use shape to do that, so just like that is okay. I'm just going to change the height to 600 pixels because I think that fits nicely. And then you can still download the CSV if you want just the pure data of the circle, or you can click on Tableau Desktop, and that will download a Tableau file directly, where you don't have to do anything. It should recreate that exact same visualization, but in Tableau. So no template, no calculation, no anything. You just click on Tableau Desktop, and you get the result directly in Tableau, normally, if it opens. Yes, so I have my bee swarm now in Tableau, and it's really pure Tableau, right? It's just like a circle with coordinates. And at that point, what we usually do is we go to Figma and we start to create a mood boards, right? So for our Sherlock Holmes visualization, we wanted that old paper style, and for the different form, for like a TV show, movies, etc., we thought about using some of those circle with like a specific shape. So Jessica, who is really talented drawing, she made those 6 circular shape that were representing the different form that you can have in the data. So let's modify the visualization quickly. So I'm just going to change the background to that kind of old paper style, and instead of circle, I want to use shape. And as shape, I'm going to use my different form. And I already added my custom form. I already added those form in my custom shapes. So I can the palette, and I just need to put games, graphic novel, and short stories like that. Okay, and now if I increase a bit the size, we have already something that looks much better than before by just putting some shapes and a nice background. So at this point, usually I will export that as an image, go back to Figma, and here put that bee swarm image and create like a frame around it and start building my UI, right? So this is not a Figma tutorial, so we already did it. So I'm just going to show you. So we added some nice title, we added a legend, we added also some information. So for example, you can see that at some point there is almost no Sherlock entry, and then suddenly a lot. That's when the Sherlock stories enter the public domain. So add those kind of annotation that explain what happens. And then once you are happy with the final result, you can just take the final frame. I'm just going to look at the coordinates of this is 340. And the frame is 1030. Okay, so I can hide that visualization, the visualization, and just export that as an image. Now go back in Tableau and put, it was 1030. The visualization, this one we are going to put it floating, and we are going to put it at 0, 340, 1500, and it was 600. And then as an image, we are going to put our frame that we just exported, fit image, center image, and remove the padding, and remove also the background of that. And that's it. We have like a Sherlock Holmes visualization that we did really quickly because I skipped all the Figma part. In the version that Jessica published, actually book, short story, and those stuff like that are actual Tableau shapes that you can click to highlight the rest of the visualization. But with the time and I just wanted to show you the overall process that we use to make our visualization. So that is really, and to show you the bridge that we create, right? Because it really is a bridge between Tableau, D3, Figma, and Procreate that allow us to create this kind of visualization. When I published the tool, I really had no clear idea if people were going to be happy with that, are going to like it. And actually, I must to say thank you for everyone who has used the tool, because we saw a lot of people starting to using to make really creative visualization and to really be, okay, I never did a Sankey before. I never did a network before because it was too complicated to do. But now, because I have this tool, I am able to do Voronoi, Sankey, core diagram, and etc. And even recently, Bohalan Adebayo he is shortlisted for the Information is Beautiful Award with his press freedom index visualizing Sankey and Bswarm that were done using the tool. So really people use it, and that is kind of the best gift that I could get. Those tools, the network, the Sankey, Bump, Bswarm, Voronoi, and Korn, it's all free. It's for you. You can just, in one click, create those visualization on Tableau and Tableau Public. Okay, so that was my very first bridge, right? The first thing that I built that I felt, wow, it feels good to create something that people are using. I want to do more of that. So I continue to build new bridges. And I'm going to show you what I did recently and what I'm going to launch in the coming months or weeks. So my very first bit was just how do I convert these three to Tableau? And there is two other problems that I wanted to solve, right? One of my thing is I want to solve problem. And one is automatize repetitive task, and the other one is to improve the dashboard experience. So about the repetitive task, every time that I work for client, because I don't just do those fancy visualization on Tableau Public, most of my work is doing KPI dashboard, or like standard business dashboard. That's what I do 90% of the time. So every time I needed to do those kind of nice KPI charts, I was always really annoyed because one, it looks really easy, but just KPI, and everyone who has done, the struggle, right? You need to create a lot of calculation just to have something that looks good. So you need the current period value, the previous period value, the difference when it's positive and when it's negative if you want them to change color. And the same for the percentage difference, also positive and negative for them to change color. So for one KPI like that, for one bank, you needed 6 calculations. So if you have 3 KPI, you need 18 calculations. And once you have created all of those calculations, you are not done because you still need to do to build a dashboard, right? And even though I'm quite comfortable using containers, it's still a struggle because I cannot really quickly duplicate my containers. So I need to reapply the outer padding, the inner padding, the background, and the border every time I create a new KPI. So I was tired of that, and I decided to create Bang, so big aggregated because I cannot say as number generator. And I'm going to show you very quickly how it works. So you have a sample superstore dashboard. If I go on sheet 2022, 22, sorry, you see that I have 3 data sources. And it's just like here I have some bands with the sales profit, but we are going to create something better. So if I go on my tool, again, we are just going to have 1,500 pixels. I'm going to select a Tableau file. And again, I could go offline, but if I go, I will lose you, so I will not do that. But I could go offline right now and use the tool because nothing is uploaded. And I'm going to use my Superstore workbook. And I'm also uploading a Tableau workbook, right? So there is no data, it's just the XML file of Tableau. I'm going to use the sample superstore data source, have a dynamic date selection so I can change my date in my workbook. And I'm going to do, for example, the sum of profit by months of order date. The current value is based on the most recent months compared with last year, and the trend as a bar. I'm going really quick because I just want to show it a quick demo. I'm not going to enter in the detail. A second KPI, profit ratio, may be displayed as a bar. And a last one, maybe the average discount. So discount as an average, and also this time maybe as an array chart. Okay, once I have created my KPI, and I could do more, I just click on generate bands, and that will add all the calculation, all the worksheet, and a dashboard directly in the Superstore dashboard or in the inputted dashboard. Normally, when Tableau wants to open. Okay, so I have my 3 KPI in a nice KPI dashboard: profit ratio, and average discount. I can change the date to see if that works. Yes. And everything is just pure Tableau. So there is no map layers, template, you need to replace a data source or anything. Everything is built if I just go on the profit worksheet, is just like a pure Tableau with a lot of different calculation. And actually, if I search here, bang, you can see all the calculation that you would have to create if you wanted to do this KPI tracker dashboard, but they are all done automatically and inserted into your workbook, right? Again, no internet connection, and it's just pure Tableau. So that was really a quick demo of a new bridge that I wanted to create to solve a problem. And if you want to learn more about that, I have a YouTube channel when I explain everything in detail. But really the topic today is the bridge, and I wanted to show you how you can create a bridge between two different tools, also use a tool in between to actually make a bridge that goes from Tableau to Tableau again, but by passing through like a nice place that will make everything faster and simpler. The last one that I want to show, and I'm really excited about this one, and I hope it will work as planned, is to improve dashboard creation, because it's something that I know in me for for quite a long time. And Brittany really summarized really my pain also that I have every time I need to create a dashboard, that kind of tied container. But even if you're using floating, there is also a lot of disadvantage when you resize the dashboard. So just creating a dashboard today feels a bit painful. If I just take this example again, I would have no way, if I wanted to change the background of those three KPI, to easily select those three and say, now the background is blue for the three KPI at the same time, or change the border, or change the padding. Everything is like a lot of click and a lot of simple action. And personally, as I explained, I have used Figma in most of my project now to create the UI, because I just think that to create and assemble the UI, Figma is a bit better. So I decided to create a bridge from Figma to Tableau. And I'm going to show you a quick demo. So let's take this dashboard that is called Superstore Start, where I have four worksheets: total sales, sales map, sales by product, and sales by segment, right? It's really simple dashboard, nothing fancy. Now I'm going to ask to our designer, which in that case is myself, to redesign that dashboard, right? So I have the dashboard in a Figma way with the title and the four worksheet. And the designer already did something like that with a filter on the right and some color. But really quickly, because it's Figma, I could change maybe the spacing between all of my elements. And if I select those different frames, I could maybe first add a background color for all of them at the same time, and maybe add 20 pixel border around every worksheet, and maybe add a stroke that will be like a light blue for all of my worksheet at the same time, right? So those many clicks that I would have to do in Tableau, I could them really easily in Figma. But you are going to tell, well, it's nice, you know, to use Figma, cool for you, but I still, as a developer, need to build that result in Tableau. And that's why I'm creating a plugin that is called Tableau Converter, that normally, if you click on the frame that you want, that we're going to use as a container, and you choose your Superstore Start that we just used, you can see that I have the four worksheets, the same as I have in my Tableau, in my Figma file. And if I generate workbook, it should create a new Tableau file, Figma to Tableau. And normally, if I didn't mess it up while I was working on it today, we should find the exact same dashboard, but this time directly in Tableau. It's still opening. That's right, cross finger with me. Okay, this is still the sales start that we had before, but now a dashboard one that was not there before. And normally, yes, I have exactly the same dashboard that I built in Figma, but recreated in Tableau automatically. And the really cool thing is, like, if tomorrow you say, oh, my company color changed and now I need to do red, well, you can just turn the border in red, this one in red too, and this in red, and just very quickly regenerate a new dashboard using those colors with just one click, right? So really the entire idea is you will be able to just design your dashboard in Figma and then export them in Tableau in one click. And if you don't have already the worksheet available, it will just be replaced by dummy worksheet that you can replace later. Or if you don't want to input your workbook because it has sensitive data, you can just have the full design with dummy worksheet that you can just replace after. It worked. So that is the next bridge that I'm building. So it's really in an early stage. I hope to have it available by November, probably at the end of November. But yeah, that's what I'm working on at the moment. And everything that I show you was my way of solving a problem using a computer and by making it look good. That is just my path, right? For you, maybe you like sports a lot and you like to work on a computer and make it look good. So you will make the best sports viz that are available. Maybe you like to explain and teach things and you're comfortable in front of a camera. So you will have a killer YouTube channel. Maybe you have a nice voice, editing skills, and you like to talk to people. And maybe your thing will be to have a podcast, right? And to have the best podcast about whatever, not necessarily data. What I'm saying is like you can build your own village, you can build your own bridges around the thing that you like and create your path to success with Tableau. And it's just really just one path. There are many other paths. I'm just showing you one example. And when I say to success, it's just my own vision of success with Tableau. If your vision to success is to have a Lamborghini, I'm sorry, maybe my path is not the best because I don't even own a car. My vision of success was to build this company of two where I could do the things that I like with the people that I love and with the tool of my choice. And that's what I built La Data Viz. And that's the end. And I really want to thank you for staying until now. I'm really impatient to hear about Priya's talk. And if you have questions, I think now I will be able to read them if I stop sharing my screen. Thank you.
Yeah, people really like it, huh? And they are awesome, and they are saying that how come it's for free?
Adviz is for free, and Figma to Tableau probably not, but
which is normal. At one moment is you have to make some money.
No, but like really, my main idea is like everything that I do that is for Tableau Public or that you can use on Tableau Public should be free. Everything that you use for your work and that your company can use, it will be paid, right? Makes sense.
I totally.
I also need to eat.
I approve, even if you, I don't have to approve. I approve your vision.
Thank you.
I think that what you didn't mention, and I think that has to be done. If you use like a Tristan's tool, you should always put the mention somewhere that you have been using his tool.
So yeah, the good thing is if you mention me, I'm also currently building a gallery on Adviz to showcase all the work that people have done using the tool. So if you want to be on the gallery, just tag me and I will add you. It's also coming at some point, like we are just two, so things are a bit slow, but it's coming, it's coming.
It's fine. And Tristan will share the link with us, so we will be able to send it to the world.
I see just a question when the Figma to Tableau be available. Like I said, around November. I'm working on it all October. That is my number one task, let's say, the higher ranked, but I don't have a specific date. If things go good, it will be November. If things go really wrong, probably a bit later, but I hope not, right?
So don't worry. I will let you, Tristan, answer the other question in the chat. Yes. I will share again my screen, and Prasam can introduce our last but not least speaker. So like always, I'm very slow. Slide check. Okay, you should see my screen and Priya presentation. Prasam, for you.
Yes. So finally, we have the last speaker here for this event, and she is none other than Priya Padham. She has been a rock star, one of my inspiration when I joined in 2020. Yes. And Priya is a data visualization engineer too at Expedia Group and has been an active community member since early 2020. Later that year itself, she became a Tableau featured author and a Tableau public ambassador, as well as receiving a community award at the Tableau conference. She also recently became a visionary for the first time in the 2023 cohort. So claps for her. And I was glad to share that with her as well. So kind of a dream as well. She loves experimenting with design and visualizing data about her interests, such as her favorite music and movies. You should definitely check out her Tableau Public portfolio. It's amazing. The Data Fam community is so inspiring and full of incredible people, and she loves connecting with members all over the world who share a passion for data. Her presentation today is all about harnessing the power of design to build better business dashboards. So, up to you, Priya. Take it away.
Thank you so much for the introduction. I'll just share my screen now. Perfect. Let me know when you can see that.
Yes, we can see.
We can.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for the introduction again. And hello, everyone. My name is Priya Padham. And just like Prasan said, I am a Tableau Visionary, Public Ambassador, and Data Visualization Engineer at Expedia Group. And this is actually my first ever time speaking at the Analytics TUG. So thank you so much for inviting me. This is very exciting. And I'm so excited to be speaking to you all today. So this session is all about how you can harness the power of design to build better business dashboards. And I'm actually going to let you all in on a little secret. I didn't actually create my first ever business dashboard until around 6 months into my Tableau journey. And that was actually when I first started my very first data role at the Information Lab, if you've heard of that, which I'm sure many of you have. But since then, it's been about 3.5 years now since I first started using Tableau. And a lot has changed for me since those early days of using the tool. And I wanted to share with you how I've grown over time and maybe little snapshots of my journey so far, and how my initial roots of loving infographic visualizations help to build the foundations of how I create business dashboards today. And I'll also be sharing why I think combining both aesthetics and usability creates the most effective business dashboards as well. So that brings me on to the early days. So I wanted to show you some early work from the beginning of my journey. So here on the screen right now is a collection of vizzes that I created in the first couple of months of using Tableau. And a special mention goes out to that little elephant in the corner there. So this is actually made entirely of pie charts. A shout out to Ken Flerlich for his tutorial back in the day. I'm still quite proud of that viz. I think it's quite cute, if you ask me. But so kind of looking at this, I didn't actually come from an artistic or design background. And in fact, I never really had any interest in it before. And I actually hated art lessons at school. But after discovering Tableau, I remember being so inspired by so many people in the community, and that actually helped my work to evolve over time. And I fell in love with design through using Tableau. And that brings me on to this next collection of vizzes that I created in the months following that. And as you can see, I started to experiment more with design, and I began using tools such as Figma, just like Tristan mentioned earlier, to help elevate my dashboards. And I started to play around more with maps using Mapbox. And I remember this is when I started to kind of try and figure out my own personal style and what makes a well-designed dashboard. And through creating all of these pieces of work, I fell in love with the kind of infographic style of visualization. And they tend to be more static and not very interactive, just like a poster, for example. From there, I started to experiment with different design styles and eventually created my very first business dashboards. And I noticed that I was applying similar design elements that I learned when creating those infographic style visualizations. And I wanted to go through those design concepts today and show you how they can help you to create better business dashboards. So when I first started creating vizzes, I loved the storytelling aspect. And I have some examples here of some vizzes that I created in the past. And you'll notice that these vizzes are long form, meaning they're very tall and you kind of have to scroll down. And as you scroll down, it reveals more of the story to you, just like turning the pages of a book. And an important thing to consider when telling a story are the chart types that you're using. And the fact that using the wrong chart types can actually detract from the overall story that you're trying to tell. So it's also so important to know your audience and match their data literacy level, and also to establish what message you're actually trying to communicate through your visualization, as well as the goal you're trying to achieve. And that actually leads me to this example here that's kind of highlighted in red. So this visualization was actually created for Makeover Monday in partnership with Operation Fistula. And the goal was to raise awareness for the work done by the absolutely incredible organization Hope for Girls and Women, and to help tell the stories of what these girls had experienced. So I used very simple chart types to help tell that story about these women, and also to ensure that it was accessible to a large audience to help spread this message. So, depending on your chosen topic, you have to choose the right chart types to help with understanding the data and getting your message across. And also to be aware of the type of data you're visualizing and actually be sensitive towards that. And ask yourself, what will make your visualization as easy to understand as possible? So if we go ahead now and apply this to a business context, although the topics would be quite different to the examples I showed just now, the way of approaching it is very similar. And again, choosing the right chart type for the purpose is crucial. And even a simple bar chart or a simple line chart would be perfectly suitable for the job at hand. And I know sometimes you may feel like there's too many bar charts on this viz, or maybe I should change it up a bit, maybe add a different chart type to make it more interesting. We've all been there. And honestly, I've had to kind of train myself out of that mindset over time, because honestly, it doesn't matter if your viz is just full of bar charts. As long as it's the correct chart type and it helps to tell that story, then it's absolutely fine. And a good example of this is my Superstore viz on the screen right now. And as you can see, it's mostly made up of bar charts. And it fits the purpose perfectly fine. And you don't necessarily need to add any fancy charts for things like this, because that could actually take away from the overall message and the story of your viz and make it harder for the audience to understand what is being shown. So for my next point, color. So I've actually found color to be one of the trickiest parts of creating a viz. I don't know about any of you in the chat. By the way, I've absolutely loved reading all your little comments. It's a very active chat. I love it. Keep it coming. But yes, so I've always found color to be very difficult in a viz because it's such a fine line between using too much color and overloading the viewer, and also not using enough color and missing an opportunity to make things clearer or easier to understand. And color is a very powerful tool because it can actually draw the viewer's attention to certain elements on the viz and make things stand out. And I have some examples on the screen right now of some vizzes I've created in the past. And I've actually kept things fairly neutral on the viz itself, and then I added in color for emphasis afterwards. So again, let's look at this from a business context. And as you can see, the color theme of this viz is primarily neutral with pops of bright blue to draw the user into certain parts of the viz. And I used bright blue to highlight the kind of top bars in these bar charts, or as a gradient color for the map as well. And I also used the bright blue color for this little toggle button section at the top as well, to indicate when a certain button had been pressed, and also for some menu buttons on the side as well. So I often find that minimizing the number of colors and adding them in at the end where needed makes it easier than using a lot of colors right from the beginning. And it's also really important that the colors you use have a specific purpose and meaning behind them, as this ensures that the user won't be confused by what each color means and will actually aid them visually when exploring your viz. So next we have negative space. So negative space is essentially the kind of blank areas that have been left empty in between the various elements on your viz. And it is to look less cluttered and more appealing if there's a little bit of padding around the elements. And it also, in turn, helps with the flow and the order of the viz as well, and makes it easier to digest and more readable rather than the entire page being full of content. And that would kind of confuse the user and probably produce cognitive overload for them as well. And in my early days of Tableau, I really wasn't familiar with the concept of negative space. As you can see on the screen right now, this is actually my very first viz that I ever made. And as you can see, there really wasn't much spacing or padding around each of the sections at all. In fact, around the kind of outer edge, you can see that each element is very close to the outer edge, and there isn't really much kind of spacing around there. Also, in between each of the sections, again, very closely packed together. There isn't much spacing between them to kind of help differentiate between the sections. And then within those sections as well, the elements are very tightly packed in and there isn't much breathing room. So if we go ahead and compare that now to two of my more kind of recent long form vizzes, we can see that around the edges, there is a lot of padding and the kind of items on the vizzes aren't kind of super close to the edge. Also, each section is clearly differentiated because there is some padding and also some lines added as well. And then in those sections, there is enough kind of breathing room and padding between those elements as well. So again, looking at this from a kind of business dashboard standpoint, as you can see in this Superstore dashboard again, there is an even amount of padding across every single element, and you can see all the different elements on the viz are evenly spaced apart. And then you can also clearly see that the KPIs at the top are grouped together, and then also the charts at the bottom are grouped together as well. And that consistent spacing across the entire dashboard makes it more readable for our users, and it also makes it more visually appealing than a kind of cluttered dashboard with no obvious structure or flow. So that leads me on to another really important point, which is less is more. Now, I'm sure you're all familiar with that phrase. It's a very popular phrase, and it actually comes in useful for a variety of different situations, especially vizzing. So I wholeheartedly believe this to be true when it comes to dashboard design. And during those first few months of using Tableau and creating infographics, I was able to learn the art of restraint and how to carefully select the most relevant and impactful data points and then present them in the most clear and concise way. So again, going back to my very first viz from before, in the beginning, I wanted to show everything. I wanted to tell every single story, and this obviously resulted in a cluttered view, as you can see on the screen right now. So for example, if we just kind of break this down a little bit, we have this pie chart, which is a thing of beauty in itself, but there is an excessive number of segments on this pie chart. And that also means there's so many labels as well, and they're kind of clustered together, which makes it difficult to read. You'll also notice that the line chart as well is quite busy, especially when it comes to the use of color, as we talked about earlier. And there's just too much being shown at once, as well as unnecessary elements such as grid lines, which clutter the view even more. So it's so important to consider data to ink ratio. And if you're not familiar with that phrase, it's the amount of ink that shows the data compared to the total amount of ink representing the chart itself. So in direct contrast to this, we have some new viz that I created. And these vizzes kind of embrace minimalism, but they contain enough detail for it to be clear to the user what the viz is actually showing. And I also didn't include too much text on these vizzes because the charts should actually speak for themselves, and things like color are kept to a minimum and used for emphasis as well. So going back to the Superstore viz again, we can see that each of the bar charts don't have a ton of grid lines or a ton of extra ink on them, but I did use a single axis ruler to help ground those bars. And I also didn't include any grid lines as well. Again, text is also used sparingly, only in titles of charts and also labeling too, just so that the users know what they're actually looking at. And you'll also notice that the fonts that I used are consistent. So I used Roboto for titles and I used Arial everywhere else. And this is because a variety of different fonts could be confusing and it wouldn't really mesh well together on the view. So the overall goal is to remove as much non-data ink as possible and to help keep things consistent. And sometimes we think about kind of what should we add to this chart or kind of what else can I put on these charts? But really, we should be thinking about what can be taken away to help improve it. So it's incredibly important to ensure that every visual is relevant and to remove anything that doesn't support the overall story. So from this, we can see that creating a dashboard is like walking a tightrope between beauty and function. And I'm now going to share with you why you need both of these things in order for your dashboard to be the most effective. So starting with engagement. So aesthetics draw the user in and boost user engagement from the beginning, as well as encouraging them to want to explore the data and to dig deeper into it. Whereas usability keeps them engaged for longer periods of time due to that kind of interactivity, and it helps them to extract meaningful insights. Moving on to enhanced user experience. With that interactivity, it adds more depth to their actual overall experience. And when a user is able to interact with the data, for example, when they drill down and filter based on their needs, or if they have the ability to view real-time insights, for example, it gives them that control over how they want to view the data. And in combination with kind of preventing users from being overwhelmed with excessive design elements, this results in a more kind of well-rounded and more satisfying experience as a whole. Now, in terms of effective communication, when a design is aesthetically pleasing, it makes it more approachable. And I'm sure you can all agree with that. If something is kind of well designed and pretty, it makes you want to use it and it makes it easier to understand. And it helps to make complex information easier to digest as well. On the other hand, interactivity can help users to better understand the data and give context, for example, with the use of tooltips and filters as well. So all in all, by balancing both aesthetics and usability, we are able to achieve the ultimate goal of user satisfaction. So they will enjoy the visual appeal of navigating their way through a clutter-free and easy to digest dashboard, but they'll also benefit from being able to explore, gain insights, and make informed decisions. And that overall creates a more positive experience for them. So from this, we can see that by focusing entirely on design and nothing else, sure, it can actually draw in your users, but it's missing the user experience element. And that could actually lead to users losing interest due to not being able to explore the data. Whereas on the other hand, usability alone will not effectively capture an audience. And having a visually appealing dashboard can result in a much more enjoyable experience for all of your users. So, Both sides are equally important, and the goal is to strike a balance between the two, and to recognize that by prioritizing one over the other, it could lead to missing out on potential users and opportunities because the dashboard is either functional yet uninspiring, or beautiful and impractical. So, think of it like baking a cake. You want the cake to look delicious and entice you to want to eat it, but you want it to taste amazing and have a depth of flavor. And that's exactly what we're trying to achieve with our visualizations. So I invite you all to create business dashboards that are engaging and functional as they are stunning. Thank you so much for listening, and I would be happy to answer any questions. And I have a lot to catch up on in the chat as well.
No, I really like your presentation, Priya. I
Thank you,
think that
Annabelle.
Prasam will also have some comment, surely, on it. You should give me some course. I can do functional. I cannot do beautiful.
we should collab.
Yes, definitely. Let's do that.
I would love it. We need to do that.
Please.
Oh, thank you everyone for the lovely comments in the chat. I'm just looking if there's any questions. I saw some stuff about Roboto. Yeah, it's not a Tableau. Yeah, it's an Android font. Yep, that is correct.
Any book you would like to suggest on the topic?
Oh, books.
Yeah, I don't know with which topic. Yeah, I suppose that is on your topic, on the design topic.
There's honestly so many great biz books. I mean, the big book of dashboards, obviously, highly recommend that. Also, I even love the Makeover Monday book because it takes you back to the basics of creating a easy to understand and simple kind of visualization. So highly recommend that. There's just so many. I need to compile a list and just like publish it on LinkedIn, and I'll send you it.
Please do so. Do we have another question? I cannot find any.
I'm scrolling right up to see if I've missed anything.
How do you balance look versus accessibility? Diana asked.
So how do I do it? How do you do it? So that's a really good question, and that kind of links me into another topic of design thinking. So I always think it's best to go back to your user and involve them in every step of the process. Make sure you're getting feedback. Make sure you establish what you're trying to achieve from the very beginning and the problem you're trying to solve. And it means that you'll have that functionality there by default. And then you can actually adapt the design as you get that feedback, and you kind of iterate on your design as you go along. And it means that you have that foundation of functionality, but then you can have the aesthetics built on top as you kind of collaborate with your end users. So I actually have another talk about design thinking, which I can send you as well. And it kind of goes into more detail about that.
Oh, that's great. I just try to make now Sophie a panelist because she has been drawing some sketches, and I'm very curious about us. not sorry, not about me, but about the speaker that we had today. And hopefully she can after switch on our camera and mic. Do you have any other question waiting for that? Yeah, Sophie is coming. I cannot see any other question at the moment.
But thank you so much, everyone. And I love how.
Thank you for coming, Priya. You will be reinvited. We will be reinvited.
I mean, I'm going to be at Visit Berlin.
Exactly. Yeah. So for the one that doesn't know, we are doing a visit in Europe. That is a little bit of a small Tableau conference in Europe, because we are so jealous that the Tableau conference is in the US. And they still have, we are pretty booked, but I think that there's still some seat available. Hello, Sophie, how are you? Can you speak?
I can. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hi, Sophie.
I absolutely loved everyone's talks. They were fantastic. And while you've been talking, I've been drawing some little visualizations. They're hand drawn, so they're kind of everyone who in the comments who really like precision vizzes. These are definitely not for you, but it's a way to capture some of the feel of these talks, looking at how you, the audience, and me as well, reacted to them in comments, and the emoji reactions, and also how many slides and how quickly the speakers change slides. So I'm going to try and share my screen. I was doing these on my iPad and I've moved them over to my computer. So hopefully this will work.
If you don't upload it in Tableau, it will not work, Sophie.
Probably. I am just going to go ahead and share my entire screen just to make this quick.
That's fine.
So please judge me
You know, I'm a
horrifically on the
genius
number
of
of
sharing my screen.
the number of
So-
tabs I have open. So Priya, this was you. The stripes are the number of slides you went through, and your hair, left or right, are comments,
that's
emojis, and the
fantastic.
dots are Q&As. I didn't have enough space to go into overtime, so if you all the people who dropped in comments after the allotted 30 minutes, I didn't have time. And the background color is what kind of talk it was. So Priya, yours was a question story kind of talk, opposed to showing how something happens or how it worked. So there you go,
That's
Priya.
amazing. How did you do that so quickly? Please send me that. That's amazing.
I've been recording. Cotgreave, you've jumped off, but you had a lot of comments and lots of slides. I probably missed a few slides out. It was a bit hard to tell as well when people for slides when it was just animation of slides, but lots of talks. But you did have this big gap in the middle where you went and explained quite a bit. And lastly, Tristan, who amazing work. And I halfway through I was like, I should have done a demo because this is all your demo slides down here. Yours was a how it works one, but lots and lots of demos, and I should have done a different color or demos when you jump in between Figma and Tableau. But your tools unbelievably amazing, and I have to try them now. I will, if you guys want, I can send these out to you, but I'll stop sharing. Thank you so much for letting me jump on this call and user group, and yeah, it's amazing. Thank you.
I think that you will be reinvited, Sophie. You can do that at every of our data analytic Tableau user group. It will be a pleasure. Prasam, do you want to conclude this session?
Yes. So thanks everyone, and I think we already have scheduled the next event that is coming up on October on 26. There are such great events from great speakers out there, and you can also see the links here which Annabelle has tagged. And thank you again. It was really good to see you interact as well as ask those questions. The chat box was totally lightning with so many conversations around there. So thank you so much for keeping it so much engaging and giving so much love to our speakers. And at the end, thank you, Sophie, for that awesome sketches. That was cherry on the top of this whole event. So thank you, everyone, and hope you had a great evening. Enjoy your day. Take care.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.